Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for February 14th through 20th, which was also the first week of Demonathon, which will explain why I read so damn much. This week I read one short story, I read 3 books, I watched 4 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 4 audiobooks. Usually I listen to 1, maybe 2 a week, but no, this was a 4 audiobook week. Let's get the short story out of the way first. That was Hello Moto by Nnedi Okorafor. This was actually one of the 2 group picks that you could read for Demonathon, and basically it just gets you extra points. It's a points-based readathon. I really wish that I could win this readathon, but there's somebody who's reading like a 1,500-page tome for 1 of the 6 prompts, so I'm just not gonna get enough points. I'm just not. And that's upsetting because I like to win things. Anyway, this is available for free online. If you're reading it as a Kindle, it's like 16 pages long, so it's really not that long, and it concerns these 3 women who have these wigs, and it is put in quotations, so that's left into some interpretation, that have some technological / fantasy elements to them. And essentially the one that created the wigs doesn't want her 2 other friends to continue using them because they're using them nefariously, and it goes from there and then ends super abruptly. This wasn't my favorite thing I've ever read. I would love to see it be an entire book, but that's the curse of short stories. Next I read Black Matters. This is a poetry collection juxtaposed against pieces of art from around the world. Some of the poems are directly about the art or take inspiration from the art or just happen to match up really well with the art. This is from a very small Canadian press, Fernwood Publishing, so I actually reached out to them and asked for a few of their titles from 2020 because I thought that they looked really fascinating and right up my alley, and this was beautiful. Obviously, I've said it before, poetry isn't exactly my thing. I feel like it's kind of wasted on me sometimes because I don't feel like I have the most intelligent things to say about it. However, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with these poems and these photographs. Moving on from that, I also read Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and this was the second time this month that I was reading a book and somebody I've met was mentioned on the page, which was just a little bit weird. Rennie Eddo-Lodge wrote a blog post back in 2014 with the same name as this book, talking about the boundaries, about no longer wanting to talk to white people about race because they expect it, they think they deserve to be able to talk about race with people, and just no, it's become a waste of time. It is said much more eloquently than that, and that blog post is actually completely reproduced in the beginning of the book, so I highly suggest going to read it yourself because I'm not going to do it justice. This is a discussion about the history of anti-Black racism in the United Kingdom and how it is ongoing, and I highly suggest picking it up. It was a really good read. This week I also thought I was just going to start reading Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I finished it super quickly. This is one of those amazing books out there that actually has a contents warning page at the beginning of it. This one has to do with grooming of a minor, as well as abduction, as well as abuse. So if any of those things are not your jam, you're going to want to step away from reading this one. This book is about Enchanted Jones. She's always wanted to be a singer, and she kind of tricks her mom into taking her to this singing competition at the beginning of the book, where she meets this guy who is 11 years older and an established mega superstar, and he takes a shine to her in a very inappropriate way. I could tell from the beginning that it was grooming behavior, but as a 16-year-old, you're just seeing a superstar, somebody who you respect and admire, and things go from there. The writing in this was incredibly compelling. Even though it was this disgusting situation, I couldn't wait to continue reading it. I read it in only a few sittings over a couple of days when I thought I was gonna probably read that one in my bath next week. Oops, now I need to find something else. On to the shows we watched this week. We watched the entire 2nd season of Dark, as well as the first 3 episodes of the 3rd season, which means we only have 5 episodes left. This is a show that we started watching the previous week. We watched the entire 1st season. It's a German show on Netflix that has to do with time travel. And wow, is it consistent that I scream at the first few episodes of a new season because there's always a new element that is put there that is ultimately very confusing, and you're trying to keep it all straight in your head, and you want to know what's going to happen, but you're also confused. And if you're like me, when you get confused you get scared, when you get scared you get screamy. It's a thing. I try to work on it. Obviously we're going to enjoy it. I assume we're going to watch the final 5 episodes this week. This week I also stayed current on Drag Race UK and Drag Race. Obviously I can't really talk about these because we're in the middle of a competition-based thing. You can always look for spoilers online as to who went home or didn't. This is one of those shows where I really love watching it, and I will talk to my best friend and see if she's watched the episodes that week yet, and then I have like one or two other people I'll maybe talk about it with, but I don't really go online to see about it. And I'm happy that I don't search out the online fandom. From what I've heard, it's pretty toxic and pretty mean. So I'm okay just talking about it here and with a few people that are just excited that people are expressing their art through gender transformation and fuckgendery and wonderful things like that. This week we also watched the current episode of WandaVision, and that twist though. I know the entire rest of the internet has spoiled it, but I'm not going to be that mean. That twist though, I really love it when actors that I enjoy get a whole new plot storyline thing that just seems so exciting and interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I also didn't realize that it is only an 8-episode season, so the next episode is the end of the season, and then when do we get a second season? What the hell? I didn't even know this show was going to be a thing, and now I'm gonna be mad that I can't watch it anymore. The first movie that I watched this week was long overdue for me, and that was Baby Driver. Here's the thing about this movie. I watched it, and then I watched it again last night because that's how much I enjoyed it. And I figured to myself, I've got a lot of things to talk about on this list, and if I just watch the same movie again, I will have one fewer thing to talk about. I played myself a little bit because I think I'm going to make an entire other video about how amazing this movie is. If you've never seen it before, our lead character, Baby, is a getaway driver. He works for this guy who he kind of ripped off in his youth and he's been paying back ever since. And the people he works with rotate all the time. It's never the same crew over and over again. This is also an action flick, so it gets super violent at points. There's also content warnings for the use of the R slur, which at first I thought it was doing a really good job of being like, no, you shouldn't say that word because you're just misusing it, but then the word keeps coming up because of just basically something to do with the movie, so I can't really give it that credit. I'll talk more about the downsides in the other video I now have to make apparently, but the things that I want to mention right now about why I love it, even if shoot-'em-ups and heist movies are not your thing, I highly suggest watching the first 2 scenes. The first scene is amazing. It is a heist, but a lot of it takes place as they are leaving the heist and he is driving them away from the situation. And then the second scene is one of my favorite long shots I've ever seen. It is so clever. I love a good long shot. I was captivated. My best friend doesn't really like shoot-'em-up movies, and I was like, you need to watch this movie and just wait until the guns appear and then you can stop, because the first couple of scenes are just so worth watching. If you want to hear me talk more about this movie, don't worry, I'm going to. I hope to have that video up tomorrow, if not a little bit later this week. The other movie we watched took us back to 2000, and it was Coyote Ugly. We love a good performance movie. I completely forgot that Tyra Banks was in this movie because I don't even know if I knew who that was back in 2000. John Goodman's in this movie. It's a cute little girl goes to New York and tries to make it as a songwriter and what she needs to do. There is some body shaming and those types of things in here, which is not aged well, but overall it is entertaining to revisit. On to the 4 audiobooks I listened to this week, all for Demonathon, the first one being How to Catch a Queen by Alyssa Cole. This is a spin-off to her Reluctant Royal series. This is, I think, called the Runaway Royal series, if I'm remembering correctly. And I didn't really know anything about this going in. Somebody said that maybe it was a prequel to the other series, and it's not. It does spin off from characters that you meet in the original series, but you don't need to have read that series to enjoy this one. From a very young age, our main character decided that she wanted to one day be a queen. Not because she's into wearing fancy dresses and looking like a princess and that type of thing, because she wanted the job of being a queen. She wanted to be the lead of a country and help that country and all of those types of things. We actually see her briefly in A Princess in Theory, but I completely forgot it was the same character until it was kind of referenced, and I was like, oh yeah, that. She is on royalmatch.com and she's matched with this prince who needs a bride immediately because of the customs of their new kingdom, so they basically get wed as soon as they are married, but it's a trial period. After the first 3 or 4 months, it's decided whether or not this queen is going to stick. Things in this country are not what she was expecting them to be. The queen basically is a figurehead and doesn't actually get to do any of the politics type stuff, and she is not down with that. Also, the guy she's married is not prepared for this situation, and she ends up having to kind of feed him what he should be be doing to be helping out his country. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoy everything that I've read by Alyssa Cole. There was only one thing that bothered me a little bit, and that's that this society seems to look down on women. And when a society does that, but it also lets a male character have both a wife and a husband at the same time, I wonder if those two situations would exist in a society to that extreme. I love that we got that queer polyamorous rep, but it was weird seeing it juxtaposed next to women aren't allowed to do anything in this monarchy and are looked down upon in general in this country. Next I read Concrete Rose, which is the prequel to The Hate U Give. This goes back and looks at Maverick, who is Star's father, when he was 17 and realizes that he is a father. Of course this is brilliantly written because Angie Thomas is just such a master at these characters and these situations. You get to see how easy it would be for a character like this to fall into these different situations of not only having a child while he's still in high school, but also having to sell drugs to support his mom and this new child he did not expect. This also obviously put a damper on the relationship with the girl he was currently having, because just one day he has a baby and she's like, what? How did this happen? I've loved all three of Angie Thomas's books in this universe, and I will read anything she writes. Next I read The Changeling by Victor LaValle. This is a horror story set in New York, and we get a lot of backstory as to the parentage of our main character. Because of circumstances you come to know based on the introduction that you're given, he grows up without a father, so when he has his own child, he really feels like he needs to step it up, and he didn't really have a model to go on, so he's doing the best he can. He loves his son, and then his wife starts having some problems. This is hard because I'm not exactly explaining it in the most compelling way, but if you've ever heard of changeling stories before, you'll probably understand what's about to happen, but it goes from there and gets even more twisted and dark. There's definitely a lot of dark in this. And then the problems that had to be faced throughout, and especially towards the end, were just so well written, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed this book. I imagine some people are sick of hearing me say it, but I would just prefer if people go into this without reading the synopsis first, because you don't need to. Just know that it's super well written, it's by a Black author. If you listen to the audiobook, he also narrates the audiobook, so that's a bonus. And it's this wonderful mixture of mythology and technology and grief and bibliophilia, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I immediately downloaded the only other audiobook from this author in my library, and I'm going to be listening to it this week. The other audiobook I listened to this week was Roman and Jewel by Dana L. Davis. This is pitched as Romeo and Juliet gets the Hamilton treatment, and I loved it. If you know anything about me, you know that I like certain things. I like bookish books, and I like books based around performance and theater, and this is the latter for sure, but also a little bit about the former because we talk a lot about Romeo and Juliet. Essentially, our main character has gone into many auditions for this new show that's going to be coming out on Broadway called Roman and Jewel, which is a retake of Romeo and Juliet. Just picture if Lin-Manuel Miranda got to do a hip opera based on Romeo and Juliet, and it's about these characters having met thousands and thousands of times and them meeting again and seeing if they can break the cycle of the double suicide that happens at the end of that play. Sorry for spoilers, but it's been out for 400 years. I'm sure you knew that. This is a wonderful mixture of not only talking about how that musical is formed and how people are working in that musical, but then it itself is also a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and it's just so good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I could picture all of these scenes as they were happening. I just thought it was fantastic, and if you like theater and or books, this is a book you should read. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment, but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist, in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!